Alright, today we are going to work on some notes for Unit D9. You are going to need your notes that say Unit D9 Introduction, the notes that say Transformations at the top, and a pencil or pen, and if you have a highlighter, that would be fabulous. Okay, so we're going to start with the one that says Unit D9 Introduction. The first things at the top, these are just some reminders for you. You need this coordinate plane here. Remember, this is our x-axis, so label it x-axis. The vertical one is our y-axis. And then we have different quadrants inside here. So this top quadrant is quadrant 1, top right. The top left is quadrant 2, and we use Roman numerals when we label these. Bottom left is quadrant 3, bottom right is quadrant 4. When you go through and you're looking at the coordinate points for this, the first quadrant, quadrant 1, has a positive x and a positive y coordinate point. Quadrant 2 has a negative x and a positive y. Quadrant 3, they're both negative. And quadrant 4, positive x, negative y. So those are just some reminders about the coordinate plane. The other thing over here, you have a coordinate point. It is x and y. So I want you to circle this first thing right here. Moves left and moves right. That is your x value. So draw an arrow from that to your x value. Remember, left is if it's negative, right if it's positive. Then this one over here that moves up and moves down, that is your y value. So up is positive, down is negative. So those are just some reminders about some old things, but you're going to need them for this unit. So go down below that, we have some vocabulary. We have two words that we are going to use. The first one is image. So this is the original or the given figure or picture. Usually we're talking about a square, a triangle, a rectangle, some sort of quadrilateral, something like that. This is the one that they give you for the beginning of the problem. This is a figure before any transformations. You should be familiar with transformations. Transformations are what we're talking about on the next page, but those are translations, reflections, rotations, and dilations. And we label these figures, for example, as A, or B, or C, or D, or X, or Y. The points on them are labeled A, B, etc. Then your other vocabulary word is the word image. This is your new figure. So this is the figure after you have had any transformations. So this is the figure after you have flipped it, after you have turned it, after you have slid it. We label this as A prime or B prime, for example. So it's the letter A with like a little comma kind of to the top. And we say A prime or B prime or S prime or T prime. So what I want you to do is look at the picture below this. You have two triangles here. This is triangle AMY, and this is triangle A prime, M prime, and Y prime. We're going to look for the pre-image first. So if you will take your highlighter, remember the pre-image is the original one, the one that they gave you, and it's just going to be labeled with letters with no primes in it. So I want you to highlight this figure here. This is your pre-image. So to the side, write the word pre-image, and we're going to write triangle AMY. I want you to go ahead and highlight the word pre-image here, and then highlight the word pre-image up here where your vocabulary is. Then the image is the one that has been changed, so write the word image. That's this figure over here, and you can tell that because it's A prime, M prime, Y prime. So we would write triangle A prime, M prime, Y prime. This figure happens to have been reflected across the y-axis. It flipped over. Okay, so that's all we need to write on this side of the paper. So if you will go to your other set of notes, that says transformations at the top. We're going to get a little more specific here. A transformation is the change in the position, shape, or size of a figure. You can think about transformers. They transform into a vehicle or something like that. So they transform, they change. So we have three types of transformations. Our first one is a translation. A translation is a rigid motion that slides every point of the figure the same distance and direction. So a translation is a slide, and I do want you to get your highlighter, and I want you to highlight those letters SL right there, and then highlight SL in the word slide. So that's kind of your little hint. A translation slides, your SL. Then it says it maintains the shape and size, changes only the position. So when we translate something, when we slide it, it does not change sizes. It just moves. And then down here you have in quotes the word slide, so highlight that word. Okay, so you have an example there. You have rectangle, fish, and rectangle, S prime, I prime, S prime, and H prime. We're going to highlight the pre-image, so the original one. So that is the one without the prime. So if you will highlight that rectangle right there, that's the original one, and then it was translated to become this one. Okay, so the next word is reflections. Reflections is a rigid motion that flips a figure across a line of reflection. So I want you to highlight the SL in reflections and highlight the SL in flips as your little hint there. When we have a reflection, it maintains the shape and the size and only changes position. So it's the same thing. When you flip something over, think about flipping a quarter. It just moves it, or it flips it over, but it doesn't change the size of it. So you have two examples here. The first example, you have triangle AMY and A prime, M prime, Y prime. So highlight the pre-image. This one is your image. And then I want you to highlight the Y-axis on this one, because this one flipped over the Y-axis. Below that, you have another picture. This one has WALK and W prime, A prime, L prime, and K prime. So this time the one on the bottom is the one we'll highlight for our pre-image. It's the one without the prime. And instead of flipping over the Y-axis, this one flipped over the X-axis. So highlight the X-axis there. Okay, rotations. Rotations is a rigid motion that rotates a figure around a fixed point. And for us, it's going to be the origin. So highlight this up here that's folded and that right here. Rotate. When you rotate, it maintains the shape and size and changes only the position. Highlight the word turn. And if you want to go back to this one and highlight flip, I forgot that. So here you have triangle boy and triangle B prime, O prime, Y prime. So again, highlight your pre-image, the one without the prime. This one has been rotated. You can see that here is your right angle and it turned around this way. Okay, the last one we want to discuss real quickly is dilations. Dilations change the size of a figure. This is the only one that we discuss that changes the size. The shape stays the same. It just gets bigger or smaller. Think about Honey, I Shrunk the Kids or Honey, I Blew Up the Kids. They're going to get bigger or smaller. So here you have triangle ATM and triangle A prime, T prime, B prime, or M prime, sorry. Your pre-image is this bigger one on this one. This one got smaller. It started big and got smaller, reduced. Then your bottom one, you have rectangle JACK and rectangle J prime, A prime, C prime, and K prime. This time your pre-image is your smaller one. So we started small and we got big, so it was an enlargement. Okay, so that is it for your notes, for your introduction. We will discuss more in class this week. Thanks.